Welcome to Heaping Spoonful, a twice-monthly conversation with restaurateurs, chefs, growers, and others who have helped generate the legends associated with eateries across the Mid-South. The team at Benny Keith is proud to sponsor this adventure with the goal of preserving the stories that have helped cultivate an amazing food scene across the Mid-South. So kick back and enjoy a Heaping Spoonful.
Good afternoon, folks, and welcome to Heaping Spoonful. This is the Mid-South podcast where we talk about the Mid-South food scene. I'm Brian McFadden, chef and co-owner of Brewed and Barley down in Dogtown, down there in North Little Rock. And to say that I'm excited about today, that's the least I could say. So the person that I have sitting across from me today is Nate Miller. Nate, So Nate is chef and owner of Bread, Cheese, and Wine. But Nate, I feel like there is so much, obviously, more to you. I mean, I've known you for almost 5 years now.
Almost 5 years.
Yeah, it's crazy to say that, but I never imagined I'd be in Arkansas now, but I'm here for 5 years. And something that you probably don't know, Nate, is that you were like one of the first people that had a name here that I've met that somebody was like, oh, Nate's a good dude. You got to check out Nate. And at the time, you were with Go Fresh.
Go Fresh Produce, yeah.
Oh, man. That's one of the things I wanted to talk about, how we met, because it was such a crazy time. Like when we came and we opened up Brewed in the middle of the pandemic, and you were working for Go Fresh at the time. And sales rep, am I right by saying that?
Sales rep, yeah. Did a little bit of kind of consultative work for them as well, but mostly working as a sales rep, just out there on the street, just trying to bring on new customers and take care of the ones we had.
And that had to be like a brutal time and trying to get customers during. How long were you with them like before we met?
So I was with them about, I guess, only about 3 years total. And COVID for them was tough because, other folks, I want to say they had the kind of benefit of kind of being furloughed or whatever else. But, for me, they fired almost the entire sales force except for me.
Oh, wow.
And so I wound up, going from covering just the city of Little Rock and the kind of surrounding areas to pretty much having to cover the entire state. And Go Fresh, they had a lot of kind of corporate customers, and so a lot of hospitals, a lot of hotels.
Yeah.
And
big accounts.
Which is good and bad. But for me, I spent the majority of the early COVID going into hospitals and talking to their kitchen staffs about, produce and whatnot. And so, COVID was, shutting the world down, and here I was having to walk into hospitals every day.
Every day.
I
remember, at the time, we were working with Skeleton Crew, of course, and I remember, I was new to the area, so I didn't know a lot of stuff what was going on with the local produce and stuff. Of course, I can Google anything, but when you have a good produce guy, you just call him. And I remember we talked on the phone every single day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when I was in sales, I had such a restaurateur kind of operator background that I could not ever answer the phone. I couldn't ever not, honestly, I loved it when you called too, because you were one of my only actual, chef customers I had left, because everything else was, hospitals, like I said.
Yeah, it was all kind of takes a little bit of the sales, not sales out of it, but it takes you like me, you like people, and you can definitely tell. When I come to your restaurant now, I see you talking to customers and everything like that. Well, coming from a sales perspective, sometimes it's got to be difficult. Like when you're dealing with it on a larger scale, like a hospital, it's not as personal as a chef saying hey man, I want these tomatoes. I want to run this crazy special. I want to do that. So
what can you find for me? What's different right now? What's unique? What's coming out of whatever? Yeah.
But it's got to be, I don't know how versed you were in it before. I've never held a sales position like that, as far as food goes, Everything that I've done as far as food goes, trial and error or reading books or stuff like that. But as far as working for GoFresh, I mean, it was probably a little bit of a learning experience too, as far as product goes.
As far as product goes, for sure, but also just as far as, when you come up in restaurants, you always have worked with or worked for some kind of, cliche, kind of old school asshole type kind of thing. The kind, the yellers, the whatever, and all that, and the folks that kind of maybe take themselves a little bit too seriously and in the wrong ways, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But when you see that same thing from the sales side, that's what really kind of caught me off guard. I remember my first ever sales call by myself. I was walking into a customer that I had inherited. This is back in 2017. And there was an avocado strike going on down in Mexico.
Okay.
And I walk into this hotel customer, and he was already mad that his last rep had been let go. And he was screaming his head off at me about avocados being $110 a case. I said, and I said, I get it. I told him all about the strike in Mexico and how that was, affecting the supply up here, kind of thing, and basically supply and demand and all that.
Yeah.
And he just got redder and redder in the face. And he interrupted me and he said, "What the fuck does a strike in Mexico have to do with my prices here? I don't get it." And
a lot of people don't get that too.
Oh yeah, and so I was like. And then he went off to this whole tangent about how the only reason why I bought from you guys before is that my last sales rep was super hot. And
oh, jeez.
One of those kind of things, yeah.
You know what's so funny? I go the opposite direction when it comes to if you are gonna. If you're gonna try to honeypot me, and and you're gonna bring in this beautiful person, I'm gonna ask them questions and make sure they know what they're talking about. I don't know. I do. I go the opposite direction.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I'm looking for knowledge there.
God, I remember one day way back in my early days of being a chef. I'd asked my rep for some quinoa, and he looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Well, what's that?" And, not even, I'll go look it up for you, I'll go find it for you, whatever else. I'm going to pretend for now and figure it out and make it happen for you. Looked at me like I was absolutely crazy. And once I told him what it was, he said, "Well, why do you want that?"
Well, one, it's awesome.
Right, yeah.
It's crazy.
I said, "Okay, I'll buy it somewhere else. That's fine."
Yeah, that's cool. Whatever. I'll make another phone call.
Yeah.
I don't have time for this.
Oh, yeah.
Well, all right. So all right. What were you doing before GoFresh? What were you doing?
So, I've been in restaurants a long, long time. Got my start about 25 years ago working for a little Euro place in Conway, just making gyros and frying French fries kind of thing, making Greek salads.
Line cooking?
Yeah.
Nice.
But this place, though, was so small. It was a counter service place. And so it was just me and usually either the owner or one of the guy, at most, or three of us back there at a time. And one of us running the counter, one of us kind of doing prep, one of us running the grill. And it was a tiny little place, but it taught me a lot. That's, where I first learned how to properly cut an onion, all that kind of thing. I was 15 at the time. And, from there, I had no plans, honestly, no even love for being in restaurants, but kind of stayed with it for a while. And when I got into college, I took a summer job working for the Peabody Hotel, which now the Marriott downtown there. Mm-hmm. And back whenever Capriccio was still the main restaurant downstairs at the hotel. And I took a job as a prep cook there. And so it was during college, and I was a complete fish out of water. I had never been part of a brigade like that. I had never seen a brigade like that. Talking about, old school chefs and the giant tall toques and the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
And it was such a life-changing learning experience. But the chef there really took me under his wing, and he taught me a lot, And, about 4 months in, he let me take over the high tea service, and he actually did high tea service every day.
Oh, wow.
So I was doing high tea service at 4 o'clock every day, and just learning everything I could. And it wasn't until I left that job to go do what I was supposed to be doing. I was getting my degree, and I went to take a part-time job working for campaigns, which I was getting my degree in politics at the time.
Oh, wow.
And realized, I hate this. I miss restaurants.
I miss working in restaurants.
Yeah, I miss the kitchens, yeah.
Yeah. So, like yourself, I have worked every different I said like different culture in this in the business. Like I've worked dive bars where like, you know, outside of Philadelphia where I'm just slinging cheesesteaks and wings and chicken tenders and, you know, that kind of stuff. And there's a culture there, and there's actually a culture that I love. But yeah, like fine dining, you know, I never got out of the restaurant business, but I mean, I was, a lot of people don't know this actually. I was a purchasing agent for an electronics company.
That's out of the, yeah, that's different.
And on the weekends, I was working at a dive bar just because I didn't want to stop doing it, you know? And so it sounds like you've done a little bit of everything as far as the restaurant business goes.
I will say I did burn out so bad at one point. I was living and working in Nashville, Tennessee, and I was the food and beverage director for the Union Station Hotel right there downtown. It's the old historic train station they converted into a hotel, gorgeous property. But this was, you know, right at the time where Nashville was really going through its big, giant population boom, and everybody was moving there. And our parent company was based out of Denver, I think it was. And they could never fully grasp just how understaffed we were. And so we were trying to run this hotel, this really nice hotel, at around about a 40% staffing capacity. So about 40% of the staff that we needed to have actually there. Wow. And we weren't allowed to go through any kind of expedited hiring process. And so one of those things where we were underpaying, overworking everybody that came through our doors. And even if you wanted to move tables and chairs for our banquet department, you had to go through a 2-week-long, you know, background check and all that kind of thing.
The whole thing.
Yeah, so no one wanted to work there. No one wanted to do that. And so I was working, you know, 7 days a week. You know, we had events, weddings, all the time. So I was never not working. And I was about to buy a house in Nashville, and it hit me. I'm about to buy a house I'm never going to see. I'm literally staying in the hotels right now. And so I went to my boss and I said, you know what? I'm done. And so sold everything I had except for my truck, my camping gear, and my bicycle. And decided I'm going to travel for a while and just figure things out.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so traveled like that for about a year or so. You know, got to go see most of the country, got to go fly down to New Zealand and see my sister who was living there at the time.
That's awesome.
And, you know, so the only time I had not working in restaurants was that kind of period of just, you know, I'm burnt out. I'm going
to go do some traveling.
Yeah.
Now I have to ask you this because I'm this guy. And it's so funny because some of my friends I don't have to ask anymore. But if I know like a friend's going on a trip or something like that, I'm like, yo, if you eat anywhere, not only do I need pictures, like if you see something cool, but even if you go to like a little mom and pop shop where they have like takeout menus, grab those takeout menus. I want to see them. Like I just want to see what everybody's doing in those travels that you had.
Oh, for sure.
What did you see? Like, did you see anything that was like, oh my God, this is awesome. I've never seen this before, food wise, you know?
So I guess on the kind of the really phenomenal end is that when I was in Asheville, North Carolina, I ate at a Spanish tapas restaurant called Curate, whatever. And, you know, it was a crazy busy Saturday night. I went in there. There was one seat left at the very end of the bar, grabbed that seat, and basically just told them, look, you know, this all looks fantastic. Just bring me whatever you want. Just I don't care what it is. Yeah. Just keep bringing me some fun stuff. They brought me the most, that had to be like one of the top 3 meals of my entire life.
That is awesome.
And it was just, you know, in Asheville, North Carolina. And that was one of the high ends for sure. And then had the best ramen I've ever had in my life in Denver at a place called Uncle.
Best ramen in Denver. To me, that just
right.
Yeah.
Right. But, you know, to me, I mean, to this day, I still kind of lament that, you know, we got good ramen here for sure, but we don't have like a classic ramen bar, I suppose.
Yeah. Gotcha.
I mean, there's some places I think that come very, very close to a great job, but just, you know, just the vibe, the energy of like a vibrant ramen bar, I love that for sure.
Yeah.
Now, on the low end of my food travels, New Zealand, I remember going to this food truck festival in this little mountain bike town. And there was this giant banner that said authentic Texas barbecue. And I got really curious.
I had to try.
Yeah,
I would too.
But I go over there and you know, Texas barbecue, you think brisket, you know, you think beef mostly more than anything else.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of smoke. And literally you go over there and it is grilled chicken breast slathered in some overly sweet barbecue sauce.
It's so funny, dude, because I do the same stuff. So like my wife and I will be away or something like that. And like we'll go to a little shop or something like that, like little mom and pop or, whatever. And like I'll order a Philly cheesesteak. And she'll be like, what are you doing?
But yeah,
Why would you
right.
do that? And I'm like, hey, there's diamonds in the rough. You never know what you're going to find, know?
There's diamonds in the rough, but at the same time is that there's a part of you like that just wants to be reminded of why the original is usually the best.
Yeah.
And why, sometimes too much deviation from a good thing for creativity's sake or whatever. It's just, what are you doing?
Yeah, and there's always, like I said, there's always that, like, there's always somebody out there that's pushing the envelope a little bit, I mean, I am of the culture that there's always somebody better, and there's always, like, I'm a musician too, so I find like cooking and working in a restaurant is very much like being a musician. Somebody's always doing something different. You got to keep researching. You're never going to hit the top ever. You just got to keep reading books and keep experiencing new things. Like you have to. You have to.
Our kind of mentality from day, before day one, whenever we were opening up the place and training the staff and all that, and especially whenever I hired all the managers, I said our mantra at BCW has to be good enough is not good enough.
Yeah, never.
Yeah, I mean, once you say I've reached where I want to be, then you hit this plateau, and then things go right back down. And if you're not growing, if you're not improving yourself, if you're not learning, like you said, if you're not trying new things and seeing what else is out there, then you're going to get into a bad pattern real fast.
Oh yeah, same stuff all the time.
Yeah,
and the other thing is too is that if you surround yourself by good people, like you're going to have those people that tell you that.
Exactly. Right.
Like,
exactly.
I mean, I let everybody taste my stuff, and like sometimes, I mean, it has happened, man. It has happened where somebody's like, "Chef, I feel like we do this all the time," or it's like, "I know we're working on this dish, but maybe we put it on the back burner for a little bit. Maybe it's not there." You have to do it. Well, you got a killer staff over there, dude.
Man, I lucked out that staff. I mean, they're absolutely killer. They are personable. They're fun. They are talented beyond all belief. And every one of them, every day they come in and they want to excel. The kitchen staff, they're bringing me things on a daily basis saying, look what I'm working on right now.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, we have, worked into specials. We've worked into menu items in some cases. And I love seeing that they come to work with that kind of passion and awesome. That kind of drive. I mean, honestly, that makes my life so much easier.
Yeah. I was just about to say that too. So I tell everybody, like when I interview, even like we were interviewing bartenders the last couple of weeks, and I tell them the same thing that I tell the kitchen staff. It's like, listen, the worst kitchens that I ever worked in, and this is my exact line, the worst kitchens that I ever worked in were kitchens where I had no creative freedom at all. Mm-hmm. Get in here, prove yourself, and we'll work on it. Like we do specials every month. We do our big stupid burger.
Yeah.
And it's like somebody will be like, hey, chef, I got an idea for this. Well, that's awesome, but this person got ahead of you. So we're going to do that one first, and then we're going to rock out this one.
Yeah.
Like, hey, chef, what do you think about this? What do you think? I was thinking about doing this hand-rolled pasta thing with this blah, blah, blah. Man, I love it. And especially, so again, back to the musician thing, like I taught drum lessons for the longest time, and I taught ages from like 7 to like people that were 20 years older than me. And you learn something from them. Like, even though I'm the one teaching, like, I'm like, oh man, I never thought about doing it that way before. That's a pretty good idea. It saves me time, that type of thing.
I mean, exactly right. I mean, for me, for me, I'm, not a musician, but I'm a cyclist, and it's just, there's always been that mentality of if you want to get strong, if you want to get fast, you want to get whatever else, you have to ride with people that are stronger than you, that are better than you, because they're going to be the ones that push you. They're going to be the ones that get you to that next level. I mean, if you always want to be, the only talented person in the room, or have this mentality of it has to be my way every time, and it can't be.
Can't be. I mean, obviously, like in the business, there's procedures that you have to follow, but my staff, I am telling you this right now, I hope it's not lost on them by now, because some of the people that have been with me for a long time, the ones that are always involved in like our special dinners and all that kind of stuff, I'll do like an outro, and like, I'll bring them out of the kitchen, introduce them to everybody. And I will say, it's one thing that one of my mentors told me is like, And I remember when he told me that, he was like, Brand, always hire people that are better than you. And at the time, I was young, and I was like, what? Anybody taking my job? What do you mean? And now I'm like, no, always. My staff is so much better than me. Like, with the staff I have right now, crushes me.
I mean, honestly, right now, my day-to-day is to go into the morning, do some of the financial stuff, be there for lunch. Honestly, I spend more time busting tables and supporting my staff than anything else, because that's just, for me, if they're doing their job, if I'm doing my job, I'm supporting them and make it easier for them to do their jobs.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about, for sure, because of course we want them to take our jobs. We want them to kind of rise up, and because that's how we work less.
Yeah. And, that's why we can sit here on a Tuesday morning and bullshit a little bit,
I mean, honestly, before we got this on the schedule, I looked at the calendar. I said, okay, well, I've got this person on. I've got nothing to worry about whatsoever. And so I called him up and I said, hey, are you good to be alone for a little while?
Yeah.
He said, yeah, I bet I got it. Yeah.
It's such a good feeling.
Yeah.
It's to the point now where some of my staff, I'm like, hey, listen, I got something going on this morning. I mean, I'm normally off, on Tuesdays, but obviously, you're never really off.
Right.
That's not how that works in the restaurant business. But a lot of the times, I have a few staff members that are like, bro, just go. I got this. Everything's okay, And I'm like, all right, well, I have to say this because I make sure you ice the muscles. Just make sure that gets done. Right. I have to say it.
Right, you have to say for sure. That's the thing too, is that, like you said, by having procedures and all that kind of thing, is that so long as we're building a culture in which they understand what their expectations are, and a culture of they understand they're respected and they understand what the assignment is, so to speak, and they understand what they've got to do, then at that point it's mostly just checking in on details every so often. Like you said, like icing the muscles, or small things that can get missed every now and again.
Yeah. Please.
but I would much rather, have to manage those small things than be freaking out over the big things,
Oh, yeah. For sure. And because, you mentioned it too. Like you walk in, you do some finance stuff, this and that, or, with me recently, been writing a lot of menus as far as like catering goes and all this kind of stuff, and get booting up for the holiday season, There's so much to it, and it's unfortunate. I actually got really lucky yesterday. So when I met you downstairs here at Benny Keith, and walking up to Benny Keith's studio, we were talking about yesterday, and yesterday was a holiday, and we're always open. But I have this amazing guy right now, Daniel, and Daniel wasn't feeling well. And this is not a guy that calls out. It's not him, so I knew something was wrong. I was like, bro, stay home, get some rest. I'll work grill tonight. It'll be fine, And I'm going to tell you, there's something a little liberating about it. Like, I was on the grill. I didn't have to sit behind my laptop. I didn't have to write any menus. I didn't have to take any phone calls or anything like that. I'm like, listen, I'm on the line. I can't do any of that stuff right now. I'm cooking burgers. I'm cooking steaks, And I was nice about it, but I was like, hey, listen, I don't have time for this right now. I'm on the line. We're hanging. We're doing it.
We had a similar thing. Recently we had National Wine and Cheese Day happened, and we didn't know about it at all until kind of 2 days before. So, what? It's National Wine and Cheese Day. We can't not do something.
Yeah.
And so we made a post about it, and it wound up being like a crazy, over-the-top busy day. But because we had not had time to probably prepare, we just kind of ran with the staff we normally had on a Thursday, and we wound up doing Saturday numbers.
Yeah.
And so I definitely dove back into the kitchen. Got there, was making all the salads, making all the apps, all the cold plates, calling all the tickets into the kitchen kind of thing. And where our kitchen sits kind of thing, you can see into it in the little window from some of the bar seats. And one of our best regulars, Angie, was there just the whole time, just taking pictures, saying, "Oh my gosh, I've never actually seen an owner get back in the kitchen before."
Oh yeah.
I said, "Well, it's a common thing, really. You just don't see it that often."
Yeah, it's rare that you see it, but the kitchen that you have over there is slightly open. Right?
It's slightly open, yeah. And so, thankfully we finally put in a swinging door there, but the expo window is still very open, and so from certain angles you can definitely see in and see a lot of the show, which is definitely fun and also at times nerve-wracking. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For sure.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, you've been in my place before, and Originally, what we thought about at first was putting a swinging door in our kitchen, but there's only one way in and out our
Yeah.
kitchen. You can't do it. People be slamming into it. So you can't really see, but like you said, from certain angles, you can see into the kitchen and stuff like that. But I've always wanted a door there, but it's just never going to happen.
But speaking of that kitchen, I remember working in that same kitchen way back when it was the Starving Artist Cafe.
Yeah.
That was a long time. Back in 2009 or so, 2008, 2009, I was there. And yeah, that was a whole different place. And I mean, y'all did a really good job making it into a great restaurant. Yeah.
Man, I can tell you, like, obviously, coming down here, the world shut down. And then, like, I had flew down here a couple times. So my cousin, Jess, was like, hey, man, like, we got to put this kitchen together. I know you're not, because we were trying to sell our house before we moved down here. Like, I know got a lot going on right now, but can you come down like 2 weeks from now and we got to sketch out this kitchen? We got to figure this out. So it was fun. I mean, that's the fun part, though.
It is the fun part, yeah.
Just like
Yeah.
doing all that stuff. And man, I want to get a little bit of history, but I have to mention this. And I've said this to you in your restaurant before. That bar that you built over there is a showpiece, dude. Like that green tile behind there, the plants hanging. I mean, it's an awesome bar.
Man, I love that you said it showpiece because that was really the word we used whenever we designed it. I always said this has got to be a stage for the restaurant, like a literal stage. Like the way we wanted it to be lit up, the way we wanted it to shine, it had to be like an actual stage where it draws your eye.
Yeah.
The same way that a performer on a stage would.
Yeah, it's awesome, dude. It's awesome.
Thank you.
I definitely had one of those moments the first time that my wife and I walked in. I was like, oh, man, look at that bar.
Yeah.
And my wife had been there actually before me, and she was like, I didn't want to say anything. I wanted you to see it, because I knew you would feel that way, and I certainly did. But let's talk about, like, what as far as family, like, growing up, like, were there any cooks in your family that influenced you?
So I really hope that my family does not take offense to this. I really do.
I've already said stuff.
Yeah. So my family was a massive influence on my approach to food because we were travelers. Gotcha. And so, I mean, I grew up in a family where my parents had lived and worked all over the world. I actually happened to be born while they were working on a contract in SoMa, which is a country just north of South Africa. And so we came back to the States, and they moved to Arkansas. But the plan was to only stay here for a couple of years, then move on somewhere else. But then my sister was born. They just stayed longer and stayed longer and stayed longer.
Yeah.
But they still, they traveled all the time, and they took us with them. And so they exposed us to a lot of food from a very, very young age.
That's awesome.
And their basic rule was that they were going to go to the restaurants they wanted to go to and bring us along with them, and that we had to at least try the food.
Yeah.
And if we didn't like the food, they would get us something from like McDonald's or whatever else afterwards, but we had to go with them first. We had to try their food first and experience that thing first because they wanted to, they weren't going to not travel the same way because they had kids. They weren't going to start going to some mediocre restaurants because they had kids.
Yeah, no way.
And so, like, I remember having escargot at a French restaurant in D.C. at like 6, 7 years old, like mussels in Vancouver Island when I was like 5, and Thai food at a young age too, all this stuff, and Indian food at a very young age. And so they just exposed us to all these really amazing foods and flavors and not just some kind of Americanized version of it. I mean, they would go to, to the actual neighborhoods in the bigger cities and seek this food out, and so we can have the authentic experience and all that.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Now at home, there was a couple things that they did very, very well. Like my mom made the best meatloaf in the world. She made the best roast chicken. My dad made the best cookies and all that. So there were some things they did very well at home, but home was not really where I was exposed to all the things that I've kind of come to love.
Right.
And maybe it is, the ADHD or whatever else, but I don't have a lot of memories of growing up. But what I do, they're almost all food memories.
Yeah.
Like every one of them is a food memory.
Yeah, I think mine too, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel that for sure.
I mean, like I remember those first mussels when I was 5, and You know, and also I don't remember the names of towns. I don't remember the names of anything. I'm not a proper name person. That's not me.
Yeah.
But this small town I will never forget was called Ucluelet, and there was this not French. I'm sorry, this seafood restaurant right there on the water, and my parents told me they were going to order mussels, and I had to at least try them. Mm-hmm. And so they come out, and remember this big giant pile, like piled so high, and they were very basic style, no broth on there, but they had this little chop of butter. So you pick out the mussel, dip it into the drawn butter, and I wound up eating the entire pile and insisting they ordered a second pile of mussels.
That is awesome.
I mean, at your restaurant the other day, I had mussels again. So mussels to this day is one of my absolute top 5 favorite foods.
Oh,
yeah.
Man.
But, and so, yeah, so they might kill me for saying they weren't the best cooks, but, and to their credit, they tried so hard. They were so experimental sometimes. I mean, Christmas dinner was never traditional. They always wanted to do some kind of new thing that they found. They wanted to try and replicate sometimes some of these curries or fish dishes they had while they were traveling.
That's pretty cool.
Which is cool. They tried for sure, but they gave me the real thing first, and so I said, yeah, you can't give me the real thing first and then give me this and expect me to say, oh, that's
yeah. Don't ask my opinion on that. It's funny you talk about eating at a young age, and if she ever listens to this, I've told this story a million times. But so my cousin Jess, Carolina. So we would go down to Carolina, and he was living outside of Charlotte. It was called Matthews, North Carolina, and there's this bar that we used to go to down there whenever I visited, and it was called Vinny's. And Vinny's was known like really like a good like bar food, but they also had good seafood too. And his daughter Cora was 4 years old, and I remember he called me and was like, "Man, when did you get into town?" Blah blah blah. I'm talking to him. He's like, "Hey, listen, we're hitting up football. Like, meet me at Vinny's." And I was staying at his brother's house, which is in walking distance from Vinny's. And he's like, "Meet me over there, blah, blah, blah. I'm bringing Cora." And I'm like, okay. And I'm thinking at the time, like, Cora's like 4. And, it was a family place, so you can bring your kids in and stuff like that. But she's sucking down raw oysters at 4.
I love that. Yeah.
At 4. I still tell this story to this day.
Man.
I mean, to me, that's like crazy.
Oh, yeah.
That's just nuts.
But I mean, I've got so many friends with kids, that are kind of more picky eaters for the most part.
My kids are definitely picky, and I don't know why.
Yeah. But that's the thing, for me, it just, that's just, I love traveling, and, I appreciate the fact that they would say, if you don't like this, it's fine, but you have to try it.
Yeah.
And to not trying it was just not an option.
Yeah.
And, I remember, maybe not to their credit, but my parents gave me some Thai food. They ordered it, Thai hot, and they basically told them, them to make it like you would at home.
Oh, wow.
Came out, and, being about 7, 8 years old, that about killed me, but it was fantastic.
Yeah. That's awesome. My kids right now, so, I have twin boys, and Evan's a little bit more adventurous, but Oliver, like, not at all. He's like a butter noodle kid,
Yeah.
If I were to say, like, bro, I'm making mussels for dinner, he would be like, I just want to eat. Like that, which is crazy to me because,
Yeah.
I mean, with me working in the restaurant and my wife is a giant foodie, like, my kids should be eating more stuff than they do, but they just don't. It's crazy. Mine growing up was very much like the necessity to cook because my parents were working. And I was like, I can't eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches all day. I'm just going to start using this oven. I'm going to figure this out.
Well, yeah, honestly, so my love for food came from eating out, but then learning how to cook was kind of the same thing. We were, more or less, latchkey kids kind of thing. Came from school. We'd come in the house and kind of be on our own. And now I was, I guess, looking back, kind of a jerk of a big brother because I would always, cook for myself and experiment for myself.
Your sister's like, where's mine?
Where's yeah. And she still gives me shit for that now. About how, growing up, I would always cook for myself and try new things, and I would never once cook for her.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Now, if I go back home, it's like I have to cook. I went home for my mom's 70th last year, and I was like, cool, this is a vacation. And then my sister was like, hey, listen, there's about 100 people coming to this party. And it's very much like there's like a small crew of people that are cooking for it. Like, we're not getting it catered. Like, mom loves Gina's lasagna, so she's going to make lasagna. Brian, mom loves your chicken masala. And I'm thinking in my head, what is this, 1975? Like, shit, Mom's always like, your chicken Marcella, so I want you to make it. I'm like, I'm on vacation. You want me to make Marcella for 100 people? Come on now. In a pan this big? Like, what's happening right now?
See, I will say my extended family learned a long time ago just to kind of, well, not let me cook, but they are not adventurous folks, and they're Midwesterners, and
Yeah.
my grandma always thought, if she could taste her food, it was too spicy, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like salt makes it spicy.
That's where my parents are right now. Yeah. For sure. I hate to say it, but it's.
Oh yeah. And so and so for them, they always, I don't want to say preferred bland food, but it would not have been worth my effort, I'll just say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear that. When my parents come and visit, I always try to get them to try something different. And my dad's always like, Brad, that's too spicy. That's too spicy. I'm like, it's literally not spicy at all. When you say spicy, you talk like my 9-year-old's talking like you can actually taste it, flavor. Yeah. You need to stop with this. Just taste it. My dad's 74 years old, and I want to treat him like your parents did. I want to take him to a restaurant and be like, I will take you out to eat after this if you don't eat this, but you have to try it.
See, I remember growing up, my dad, my God, this man would have a plate of raw habaneros with almost every meal.
Oh, my God.
And I always thought he was insane, but, I just also, it was really freaking cool.
Yeah. That is insane.
Now, he doesn't do that anymore. He's 75-ish himself now, and so he won't do that anymore now. But, but growing up, every meal, habaneros, yeah.
You love the heat.
He loved the heat. Yeah.
That's crazy.
And I definitely got that from him. Nowadays, when I'm not working and when I'm not, going out and I'm actually at home cooking, I will decide what meal do I want today based around what hot sauce am I craving right now.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So the guys in my kitchen, Daniel and John for sure, a little bit of Kate, but I can't trust these guys. Because, listen, I love hot food like I do, but it doesn't like me. Like, my stomach, it just, I can eat some spice, but not the way these guys eat spice. Like, these guys eat spice. Like, you talk about your daddy and those habaneros. These guys would do that, and they're fine. So whenever they're like, hey, chef, you got to taste this. This is the hot sauce. We're working on that chicken special. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Like, no. And they're like, dude, it's at like a 3 or a 4. I'm like, bro, your 3 or 4 is like my 15. Okay, you need to stop with this. And they get me all the time. Especially like to be like, listen, we know how you are. We wouldn't do that to you. And I'm like, all right, I'll try it. And I'm like, you son of a gun, you did it. Yeah, crazy. Well, listen, this is what I think we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to pay some bills. We're going to listen to Rusty's beautiful voice here for a second, and we'll get back, and I really want to dig into BCW. All right? So,
sounds good.
All right, we'll be back with Nate Miller of BCW and SoMa in just a second.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of Heaping Spoonful. We at Benny Keith Foods enjoy talking about the food scene almost as much as we enjoy providing the top quality ingredients that help restaurateurs and chefs across the Mid-South create their magic. Now let's dive even deeper into the culinary world with your host, Chef Brian McFadden.
All right, welcome back to Heaping Spoonful. My guest today is Nate Miller of BCW, which stands for Bread, Cheese, and Wine. Now, man, you probably don't know this. Some of our close friends that we came up with, they know what my wife and I do on the holidays. But, so we're going like Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve. So my wife and I, we will start a list. Like, honestly, we will start this month, probably in September, and we will start looking for like cheeses and charcuterie and stuff that we love. And Christmas Eve, after the kids go to bed, my wife and I, we will crack some wine and we will make a big meat and cheese board for us. And then we do the same thing on New Year's Eve. So New Year's Eve, whether I work or not on New Year's Eve, my wife will wait for me if I'm working, and we will do the same thing. Like, we'll even celebrate the new year. Like, last year was the first time the kids were up to, like, watch the ball drop and do the whole thing on New Year's Eve. But we will do that on New Year's Eve, too. We will make, like, a big meat and cheese board, and we'll crack some wine. That's, like, our favorite thing in the world to do.
Love that, yeah.
So now you have this restaurant, Bread, Cheese, and Wine, And when I heard that you were opening up, like, I called my wife right away, and I was like, babe, do you remember Nate? And at first, it took her a while. She was like, Nate. I was like, come on. This is when blah, blah, blah. And she was like, oh, yeah. I was like, well, he's opening up a spot downtown, bread, cheese, and wine. It's right up our alley. And then I got pissed because she actually went before me. Like, with one of her girlfriends, she went with Jess's wife, Tina. And I was like, what is happening here? But, man, how did this come about?
So honestly, I didn't really have any plans necessarily to get back into restaurants. I was, working for a competitor to Benny Keith, and I was spending so much time every day just in my car driving around, driving literally 100+ miles a day, just crisscrossing the city kind of thing. And, constantly on my phone, and the short bits of time where I actually could stop my car, talk to the chefs, talk to the customers was fantastic. Mm-hmm. But so much of my time was occupied just being in a car, at red lights, in traffic, whatever else it is, just driving back and forth across.
It's my nightmare.
It's my nightmare too, for sure. And that's the thing is my nightmare. I said, okay, well, what else could I possibly do? And I was driving home one day and drove past the property that is now BCW, and I saw that an old acquaintance of mine was the kind of managing, I guess, broker. Whatever else. I gave him a call up, and I said, "Hey, man, just I'm just really curious about this place. I don't expect anything to happen. I'm just curious. Right now, I'm in a mindset where I just want to see what other possibilities there might be out there, and see just what might be." And so he got me in the space, and I said, "Oh my God, this is actually a really cool space. There's like a lot of potential in this space."
Yeah, it's a great location.
Great location for sure. And I love SoMa. I love that area. That's where I spend a lot of my time, either there or Argenta. Honestly, not much anywhere else. But and to have a space like that come available and be available for so long. It blew my mind. Granted, it was, I guess the tail end coming out of COVID, and so really say it was a weird thing.
Yeah.
But and so I kind of went home and started hashing out, if I did this, what would it be? What would it look like? Because when I went to look at the space, I had no conception of a grilled cheese restaurant, charcuterie, focus, small plates, wine. I had no idea of that whatsoever. I was just in my head thinking, I've got to figure out something else to do.
Yeah.
Because this whole driving thing is not sustainable.
And mental health, not
right, not at all. Yeah, and so pretty much, and so we kind of, even as we're kind of hashing out, the possibility of what renting out would look like, what the build allowance would be from the landlord, kind of financing from the bank, and investor, and still hashing all that out as just possibilities. The idea kind of hit me of, a long time ago, I had mentioned, just if I were to ever truly just burn out, I'm going to open up a fucking grilled cheese restaurant and call it a day. And I said, well, as much as that was a joke back in the day, that might make some sense now. Yeah. And started building from there and said, okay, what can we do to make it a grilled cheese restaurant, but do it different? 'Cause Ham and Trees does a great job in Fayetteville, but we didn't want to be that, and that didn't make sense for this area. So kind of doing something that's uniquely us, uniquely for SoMa, uniquely, my taste, my aesthetic, my whatever. And I said, okay, well, I'm getting older. I'm not drinking the way I used to. I'm loving wine more and more and more. And so, cheese and wine, there we go. And, bread plus cheese equals grilled cheese. And so, And it kind of just came about very organically. We didn't ever have this preconceived notion of a restaurant that we wanted to shoehorn into a space kind of thing.
Right.
And we very much kind of came about the concept and the idea, both that was going to be designed for the literal space that the restaurant now occupies and for the neighborhood of SoMa, and but also just things that I personally just love.
Yeah. That's awesome. With us too, we did the same thing. It's like, I think we're lucky, but like, I don't consider myself a chef, man. Like, I consider myself, like, I make food that I love to eat, and like, I'm just lucky that everybody else likes it too. I mean, I got lucky there. But I can tell you, so I told you I got upset with my wife the first time she went, and she was like, she wasn't going to tell me too. So I was like, you talk to Tina? Like, she was like, hey, babe, do you mind if I go out with Tina? Blah, 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 whatever night it was. And I was like, no, I don't care. Like, what do I care? I'll hang with the kids, do my thing, And then I was like, so did you talk to Tina? Yeah, we're going to go out like around blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Where are you going to go? And then there was a pause. And I was like, well, are you there? And she's like, yeah, I'm here. And I'm like, where are you going? And she goes, we're going to go down to BCW. I was like, what? Are you serious right now? And I was like, all right. Well, I want a full report. And then when she got home, she was like, babe, there's a couple things I got to say. One, I want to talk about pickled grapes. And I was like, pickled grapes. Okay.
Pickled grapes, man. When I gave the staff the menu the first day and, for training and all that, and they saw pickled grapes, some of the servers looked at me like I was crazy. and they said, what do you mean pickled grapes? I said, just trust me.
Just try it.
And now we have folks coming in asking to buy those by the jar. Yeah.
Wait, do you sell them by the jar?
We do. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right. Hopefully my wife will not hear this, and I'll be able to surprise her for her birthday and get her some pickled grapes from your spot, because that was the first thing that she said.
Yeah.
And then she was like, my wife is very picky when it comes to wine. And I'm going to say this, but I've already said this to her, like, mostly at home, she drinks crap. She drinks just garbage wine. And she likes sweet, whatever. And I'm like, oh, my God, this is not good. She's like, babe, I have a great wine list. There's actually wine that I like on the list, And the other thing that she said, which I would agree with when I went with her, is server knowledge. I mean, this is one thing that I think that everybody in the restaurant business, and this isn't a slight to servers, but nobody really understands how important that is most of the time, is server knowledge.
Right.
So like I come in, we flash forward, and my wife and I are in there, and we ordered a board, and we basically ordered like a little bit of everything. I just wanted to taste everything. And your server, and now I forget her name, the young lady, but she knew everything that was on that board. And if I was like, hey, listen, this has been like my part of the board. Like, I really like this, And she was like, oh, this wine would go perfect. Mm-hmm. At the time, I was drinking that the Chenin Blanc from South Africa.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Man, what a good wine that is.
So at that time, I think we still had the Renzig Chenin Blanc, but that was my favorite wine we had on the list. And regrettably, we sold the entire state supply out. and so now we've got a new South African Chenin Blanc in, a Lubanzi, which is great for sure. But that Renzig, that was special. That was special for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And she recommended that. And I was driving that night, and I think I had 2 glasses, and then I was like, I'm going to have another glass of wine. And my wife was like, babe, and I was like, we're not far. We're right over the bridge. It's not far. You act like we're in another state right now. It's like what so many people do, by the way. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy. Hitting the bridge, that's what we call it. Like, I'm not afraid to go over the bridge, but there's so many people that are. But so you offer a few boards on your menu.
We do. And so we've got the cheese board, which is obviously just cheeses and those pickled grapes and some nuts and some bread and all that kind of stuff to go along with it. And 3 different kind of house-made stuff to go with it, like a spicy honey, a fig jam, and a pepper jelly to kind of go with all that as well.
That pepper jelly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that pepper jelly is fire.
Oh, yeah. But it's kind of all, and then also we got our what we call the board, which is kind of just an assortment of cured meats and cheeses, but it's not like salamis and all that. So it is the Spanish Serrano ham. It is the prosciutto, which getting to educate our staff about what makes Serrano ham different from prosciutto.
Yeah.
They're essentially the same cut of meat.
Yeah.
Was a lot of fun. And then we do on that main board, we do a house-made duck pastrami. We're now doing a house-made pork rillette on there as well. Yeah. And but we tell the servers, and part of the reason why I think they are so good is that we constantly remind them that when people go out to eat, they're not just going out for the food.
Yeah.
And if they are going out just for food, chances are they're going to get takeout, or they're not going to be coming to restaurants like yours or mine or whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're coming in for the service as much as they are for anything else. And that what they do is just as much of an essential product as the food, as the wine, as everything else. And the service that they give and the knowledge they have will for sure get folks to come back in.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, and so you get them kind of approach it that way and just understand that they're not just order takers.
Yeah.
That they are, they were hired because they were personable, they were brilliant, they were fantastic folks, but they're the ones that get to provide the experience.
Yeah.
And restaurants are all about the experience above almost anything else.
I mean, that's it, man. I mean, it's just selling the whole experience. It's not just selling a glass of wine, just selling a meat and cheese board. I mean,
Right.
It's the experience. And I will say, and I'm going to repeat myself, the experience that the first time I was at your spot. It was such a good experience. The server knew all the questions. She had answers to all the questions that I had, and there was a lot of stuff on there that I was like, you guys making this? And they're like, yep, we make that in-house. Was it a duck ham or a duck prosciutto?
The duck pastrami, yeah. The duck pastrami, yeah.
Oh, man. So I had one of those moments where I was like, and I'm sure you've had it too, and I think many people that work in the restaurant business or many people that own restaurants or at least run them have had, you go into a spot and you taste something and you're like, that son of a bitch. And you're just like, damn it.
Yeah, exactly right. Oh, for sure, yeah. Honestly, I feel that way. Last time I went into to Scott Rain's place. Was it Table 28?
Table 28,
Yeah. I mean, he's always doing something just ridiculously fantastic over there. Yeah.
Chicken skins, man.
Chicken skins. That's what it was. The chicken skins. Yeah.
That's so good. Good. But man, I've been to your spot a few times since then, and every time I've been impressed. Now let's talk about the grilled cheese side of things.
Yeah.
So the last time I was in there, you had the duck on a grilled cheese. You had, was it a brisket or a short rib?
So we've got a spicy beef, which is just a braised chuck roast, honestly.
Oh, nice.
And it's a very slow braised chuck roast that we do a spicy chimichurri and jalapenos on, and we do a very fantastic American cheese called the New School American cheese. Which is it melts like American, but it has this amazing, true flavor. It's not like a nothing cheese like American cheese usually is. You can actually taste a real cheese in there.
Yeah.
And then it's also got some provolone on there as well. And but it's funny you talk about this because whenever I worked with the kitchen staff, I said every grilled cheese we have has to have, for one, more than one cheese, but we have to be very intentional about the cheese we use because not all cheeses melt the same way.
Yeah.
And obviously some cheeses have more predominant flavors, some have, more mild flavors and all that kind of thing. And so just blending the right cheeses to have everyone had to have at least one melting cheese into a cheese that just kind of gave you that kind of pull, that stringiness, that melt.
Oh, yeah.
And another one, sometimes with a more dominant flavor, that would be the flavor cheese.
Yeah.
And so on the roasted mushroom, for example, it's got pecorino on there, but it's also got Gruyere, and so both kind of nutty cheeses to go along with that and with the mushrooms. But pecorino, it doesn't melt at all.
Yeah.
And so you've got to have the Gruyere there to not kind of be the kind of complementary kind of flavor, but it melts so much better and gives you that pull, gives you that stringiness, and so because it's not a grilled cheese if it doesn't pull.
It's got to, it's got to pull. It's got to pull. It's got to be together.
Yeah.
And that's one, Evan, my son, he's always whether it be a mozzarella stick or a grilled cheese or something, it's always Dad, cheese pull.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
It's got to be there.
And without that, it's pretty much a panini at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man. So, all right. It's funny because every time I think about your menu, man, I think about something different. We have to talk about these potatoes, dude.
Oh, yeah.
We have to talk about these potatoes because that was definitely another thing where my wife was like, all right, I was here before you, and there's a couple things that I'm going to reorder because you have to taste, and those potatoes, man.
I say that we had no concept in mind whenever we got the space, but the one thing I knew before any menu development even happened, before we had a name, before we had a concept, before we had anything whatsoever, I knew that those potatoes would be on the menu.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I knew. And I tell the staff, I tell everybody this, I said, if we do open up more restaurants, which we do have plans to open up more restaurants in the future, those potatoes will be the through line through every concept we ever do.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and those are going to be our kind of branded potatoes. Yeah.
Oh, dude. And there's 2 different sizes, right? Am I right by saying
Yeah,
that?
small and large. Yep.
We got a large one, and I'm pretty sure I ate the whole bowl myself. And just sitting there, like, drinking wine and homemade ranch with them, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah, that is a tzatziki ranch, too. So, yeah, that's a homemade tzatziki ranch. And so it's basically, it starts with the same kind of components of a ranch dressing. And so we do, the onion powder, we do the garlic and the dill, all that stuff with the mayonnaise. But instead of buttermilk, we do tzatziki. And so we do homemade tzatziki as well. So the yogurt, the cucumber, and lemon and all that. We blend it together, then mix the 2, and got tzatziki ranch.
It's fire, dude. It's so good. So good. You can't get enough of it. I remember the server. I mean, I'm sitting here eating, and the server's probably like, this guy's going to eat this whole bowl of potatoes. And I'm like, can I have another ranch? I don't care what it costs. Just give me another ranch. Just bring it.
Oh, yeah.
Bring me a 5-gallon bucket of it. It'll be fine.
Recently, folks have discovered somehow all at once that people have started to order the potatoes with the fondue, which of course makes sense. It's classic and all that.
Yeah.
And so they're now dipping the potatoes into the fondue. Yeah.
Hey, when it comes to cheese, man, I mean, you just can't go wrong.
Oh, no.
And there's so much out there that it's like, it's just a dream. Like, there's a million different kinds of cheddars, all kinds, there's just, and it's not, I don't feel like it's gotten saturated like with other things. You know what I mean? It's just, there's so much out there. There's so much goodness out there when it comes to cheese. Do you have a favorite?
I'm classic. For me, I like a really good, very sharp cheddar cheese.
Yeah.
And talking about pivotal food memories is I remember moving to Vermont where I was going to culinary school, and my first day there, getting to my house, and I go to this, it's a tiny little town in Vermont. I go to the only restaurant opened up, which is this little diner place, and I'm loving everything, but I order a piece of apple pie for dessert, and they asked me, do you want a piece of cheese on that? I said,
What?
So what do you mean cheese? No, I didn't.
Talk about classic.
Right, yeah, but then they said, no, you have to do it. And so I got, some sharp Vermont white cheddar, melted over this apple pie, and it changed my life.
Yeah.
And so from that point on, and so even though I love I've got love for almost all cheeses, but a truly sharp, crumbly white cheddar cheese is my favorite for sure.
Heck yeah.
I mean, that with apples, that with, basically anything is just, yeah.
Oh, man.
Hell, I had the last night when I got home. I went and got home, and I just, went in the fridge. I got some cheddar cheese and an apple, and that was my dinner.
Yeah. That's the way to do it, dude.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, like, we keep a couple cheeses in our fridge that are, like, steady, that, at any given time, even I get home late from work, and you talk about, like, you've had a couple late nights. Like, I've had a couple late nights in the last couple weeks. I get home, I have this, like, little cutting board. I'll grab this cutting board, sit at the dining room table, cut into this piece of, like, Irish cheddar or something like that, and a little beer, a couple crackers. Yeah, it's so good.
I will say, my Wisconsin family, which I've got a lot of Wisconsin family, they would kill me for saying this, but Vermont makes a better cheddar cheese than Wisconsin does.
Oh, man.
I will say what Wisconsin does better than anybody else is the Wisconsin cheese curds are just next level.
I don't think I've had.
I mean, when I see my family in Wisconsin, as often as I can, I will always go into one of the tiny little cheese shops and get the cheese curds. The cheese curds have always been so fresh that when you bite into them, there is a squeak to them. And they literally squeak in your mouth because they are so fresh.
That's so awesome.
And it's just one of those things where they are absolutely fantastic for sure. And just by being as far south as we are, even just from the transport time, they can never ever be as fresh down here as they are in Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah. It's like Yingling Lager, man. It tastes better in Philly than it does down here.
Yeah.
I still drink it, but I mean, it's dude. You brought up cheese curds. Have you been to Philadelphia?
I've been to Philly. Yeah.
Reading Terminal. There's a place called Fox and Son, and they sell, like, I guess they would call them like gourmet corn dogs and stuff like that. And they do cheese curds, and their curds, man, are so light and like fluffy. Like
They do like a fried cheese curd.
They're a fried
Okay,
cheese
yeah,
curd,
yeah.
yeah. And they put this batter on them. It's almost like a tempura batter that goes on. They're so light. They're just like, oh my God, they just melt in your mouth and just like it's.
Oh yeah. I mean, I love fried cheese curds for sure, but I will say, next if you ever go to Wisconsin, go to any cheese shop in the whole state, get the fresh ones like right out of the bag.
Gotcha.
And they literally, I mean, there's like little dairy farms surrounding these cheese shops, and so oftentimes they are made like day before, and then they put them in a little plastic bag and they twist it up, they put a little tie around it, and they put them out into the cheese thing, whatever, and they're gone like almost instantly. But they are life changing.
I have to go. Now I have
Yeah.
to try them because you're right. They're not going to be. Somebody could ship them. They're not going to be the same.
Right, yeah.
You got to get them that day.
That squeak, man. That squeak of that cold, fresh curd is just something else. Yeah.
Wow, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
So we got a couple minutes left, but I have to ask you this. You had mentioned something earlier. Is there anything that you want to say as far as tell us? Like you got plans? Like what's the plans for BC Dub, man? What's going on?
Well, so right now the plans are I guess I can say this now. We are actively looking for locations for concept number 2.
Nice.
And so, like I said, same as BCW, we're not sure what the concept will look like, what it's going to be, but we are kind of, talking to our broker about finding a space for that next thing.
That's awesome.
For sure.
That's awesome.
And by the way, when does this air?
Not sure yet, to be honest with you. I'll definitely let you know.
Okay, because if it happens before September 21st, which is a Saturday, is our 1-year anniversary. And we've got a big party planned. We are unveiling a new giant 8-foot-tall art piece. It's going to go along with the other 3 that we've got by local artist Milk Dad. We've got DJs all day long. We've got a new cocktail menu launching that day. We've got musicians outside. We're doing a little kind of parklet thing outside.
That is awesome.
But the fun thing, too, is that we're partnering up with Love Spell Tattoo.
Nice.
And they are doing a flash for us of bread, cheese, and wine flash tattoos.
That is awesome.
And so anybody that goes in there and gets one of these flash tattoos will get entered in to win a substantial gift card from us.
That is so cool, dude. That is that's an idea right there. That's pretty badass.
Katie and her staff, we love them so much. They are in the restaurant all the time. They're our neighbors, and they're in quite often. And Katie, back in her early days of tattooing, actually tattooed 3 or more of my tattoos.
Oh wow.
And so I've known her since back in her days of being an apprentice.
Wow.
And she's doing amazing things in the neighborhood as well. So we're really excited to partner up with Love Spell on this whole flash thing.
That's so awesome. And dude, I will totally get a cheese tattoo.
Exactly right.
Like
a little bit of cheese. Yeah.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
All day, man.
Yeah.
All day. That is so awesome. Yeah. That is so awesome. Well, very cool, man. Dude, I really appreciate you coming in today, man.
Thanks for having me. This is great.
Super excited for you to come in today. I'm excited to get back down to the restaurant, for sure. We got to figure something out. We got to go out and have some beers.
And by the way, one other thing we have in common, too, is that I just brought on Jen as our social media person. Who does y'all's as well.
Yes.
And she's been a life changer.
She's killer, man.
She's killer, yeah.
She's so killer.
Yeah.
Yeah, she, like Rob does over here, Rob Nelson over here. He's the head of technology over here at Benny Keith, and he makes us look good, makes us sound good, and Jen makes us look good.
Okay.
Better.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, Nate, thanks again. Appreciate it, man. You're listening to Heaping Spoonful. I'd like to thank Rusty Mathis, the general manager over here at Benny Keith. This is his baby over here at Benny Keith Studios. Just mentioned Rob Nelson. Rob, thank you for everything you do. Really appreciate you, sir. And we will talk soon. Thanks again here from Heaping Spoonful.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Heaping Spoonful. On behalf of all of us at Benny Keith Foods, Mid-South Division, please know how much we love connecting you with the legends of the culinary scene and their unique stories. I look forward to the next time we can offer you another Heaping Spoonful.